Welcome to Over Under Flames Edition. I'm Ryan Leslie, he's Eric Francis. And Eric, I want to start by the goaltending. The Calgary Flames had to address a need. They feel they've got the best guy that was available in Jacob Markstrom. They got a pretty good 1-2 punch, but as far as Markstrom is concerned, this is a guy who's played 60 games in his career in the past, back-to-back seasons. Now, with a 56-game season, I ask you, could he be between the pipes for Calgary for 40 games this year, over or under?
Oh, I think under. I think that's a big number in a 56-game season. You just invested $36 million in this guy over the next 6 years. You don't want to burn him out in year one. And I know he's been used a lot and he's a workhorse, but with all these back-to-backs and hockey every second night for 116 days this season, I think you've got to rely on your backup a lot around the league, but especially in Calgary, where you've got an all-star in David Rittich who's backing him up. This is the only tandem in the National Hockey League with two all-stars on the same roster from last year. People forget David Rittich had a great start last year, played in the all-star game. That's where he met Markstrom. I think they're going to work really well together, 1A, 1B. Don't get me wrong. This is not a competition. Markstrom's the guy, but I think he's going to play more like 35 games or just maybe under that. 40 is a little high for me.
I don't think the work will be an issue for a guy who's done it in the past. I think about the time off that they've had, the conditioning. This guy is a competitor. He feels like he's got a little something to prove, even though he was sensational in the postseason when he was a member of the Canucks. I think that this opportunity right now in front of him, I don't think 40 is too much. I understand what you're saying about the calendar, but I really think 40 and maybe just a little bit more is very possible in his sights because of the workload, because of the urgency, and because I think that this is a very unique situation. I don't think this, when it all shakes down, will be too much for Jacob Markstrom. Okay, Johnny Gaudreau, a hot button topic with him. We've seen him 2 years ago get 99 points in a season. Given all the intricacies of a unique season ahead of us, I say he will be a point-a-game player once again. Over or under on that? Do you think he'll get more than a point a game, or do you think he'll be below?
Oh, I think it's just going to be just under. You know, I think people think of him as a point-a-game guy. Only once in his 6 years in the National Hockey League has he exceeded a point a game, and he did it in dramatic fashion 2 years ago when he had 99 points. However, last year he only had 58 points. You know, he was 12 points under a point-per-game pace. And I think the real reason why he's going to be just under a point per game is because I think they're going to use Johnny Gaudreau differently this year, significantly differently. I think that his showing in the playoffs last year really is going to prompt this organization to say, listen, we think we can have success with Johnny Gaudreau in our lineup in the playoffs, because that's all it's about in Calgary. Not about the regular season. They will be judged on the playoffs. We think we can have success within the playoffs, but it's going to have to be in a secondary role. We're going to have other people take first-line minutes. So 5-on-5, I think Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan are going to play a lot less minutes than they have in the past. They're going to want to roll four lines. He's going to get the majority of his points on the power play, as he always has. But 5-on-5, he's going to get less ice time, in my opinion. And I think that's going to cut into his point total. He'll be just under a point a game. And I still think that'll be a good season for him. They don't need him to score 99 points. They need him to be a successful part of a new defense-first philosophy. Can he play that? We'll wait and see.
You may be onto something there in terms of his usage. I do think, again, with the uniqueness of this year, I don't think the fact that the travel will be reduced significantly. And for a player who is going to know his opponents night in, night out, I'm fascinated to see if we do see 10 games, for example, against the Canucks and Flames, how they will try to figure out Johnny. But I do believe that he is just a hair under a point a game guy as well, because of the way he may be used, because other players are coming up within the Calgary system. I'm talking about the Dylan Dubés. I'm talking about maybe more prominent role for Sam Bennett. Maybe Sean Monahan is used differently as well. There's all kinds of intangibles. He is still, I think, going to be able to be an offensive force and an offensive threat like we've seen. Less games, different usage, but I still think that just a hair under a point a game player is probably pretty realistic. I think Flames fans would love to argue with that and maybe say that we're wrong. Okay, the final one. And as far as the Flames fans are concerned, they want to know what this Canadian division looks like. I think we all do. We can go a million different ways with this, Eric, but when you look at the improvements that every team in this North Division, if we're going to use the proper term, This North Division sees a lot of Canadian teams get a whole lot better. I think the Calgary Flames are going to be a top 3 team in this North Division. Over or under?
Oh, I at the risk of sounding like a homer, I think it's going to be over. I think they're going to challenge for the division lead in the regular season. I think this team is a top 2 team in the North Division, and they're deep, and that's the number one thing. I think they're the deepest team in Canada, and especially up front. I think they've got a revamped defense, which I think will still serve them well. They've got an all-star tandem of goaltenders. A lot of people think when they look around that North Division, it's going to be offense, offense, offense. Every game's going to be pond hockey. I beg to differ. The Calgary Flames, I think, are going to push very hard to continue on that defensive path that served them pretty well in their playoffs last year. And I think they have the horses to play that style of hockey. So I think they're going to finish first or second in the division. I think they're better than a top 3 team.
Maybe hard to argue with that one when you think about the bad taste that is still in their mouths in terms of the way the postseason went. Another year older for the likes of Matthew Tkachuk and company. Rasmus Andersson jumps to mind. New faces like Juuso Välimäki, and some players who, like Mark Giordano, wonder how much time is left. He, of course, trying to cut some weight, stay in top shape, and other players coming on to make a push. Elias Lindholm as well really comes to mind. So it looks like the word that you used was depth. I think that will serve them well. I think at least a top 3 team. And when you look at what Toronto's done, what Montreal's done, heck, even Ottawa has improved. Vancouver kind of remains to be seen if they're taking a step forward or step back, but they've got some weapons as well. And Edmonton didn't address the goaltending, but they're still a dangerous team when they have a couple of other studs in Draisaitl and McDavid. Go ahead.
And the last word I'll add is motivated. This is a team who's kind of embarrassed over the last couple playoff showings. They really feel like they're a cup contender. They need to prove that to a lot of people first, for sure. And they are hell-bent on doing that this year. And 2 other names you didn't even mention who I really think are going to surprise a lot of people in Canada, Andrew Mangiapane and Dylan Dubé. You mentioned him. I really feel like those 2 in particular are about to really project into being, legitimate top 6 forwards in the National Hockey League, which will take some people by surprise, but not people in Calgary.
We will touch on those 2 players and much more in the next edition of Over and Under.